It was very confusing to some people, but we all had a laugh. It was actually really, I was hungry.
And which In-N-Out burger did you go to? What?
Hollywood.
How would you feel sleeping in an orphanage in one of the poorest countries in Africa and waking up the following day in a celebrity couple's home? That is the story of a poor Ethiopian girl whose vulnerable state attracted the compassion and love of Angelina and Brad Pitt 19 years ago. Today, the world is shocked at how the girl's story has evolved from an orphan to one of the adopted children of a Lister couple, while she navigates her path to becoming one of the most adored women in the beauty industry. Keep watching to learn about the identity of this young prospect and what she is up to today. Life in Ethiopia. 19 years ago, Ethiopia was one of the poorest African countries, with over 4 million orphans who had no access to proper food, shelter, and amenities of life. Some found themselves in the streets begging to eat, while some were malnourished in orphanage homes that were just feeding them for the sake of being alive, not healthy. In this poverty, Zahara was born. She would have possibly grown like other kids without education, access to good food, and electricity. At most, she would have started working from a tender age just to earn $1 daily. But fate had a different route for her. She was destined for a good life, and not even her place of birth was powerful enough to change the trajectory of her life. Today, Zahara is not just living a good life, but gradually becoming a child every ideal household in the United States will dream of. How did she earn such admiration, and how was she adopted? Keep watching to satisfy your curiosity. Don't be emotional because this will grip your heart. This story speaks volumes about the harsh realities some families face in a world where life's decision is dictated by poverty, not love or emotions. Zahara was born into the hardship of Ethiopia on January 8, 2005, in Awassa. She was adopted from an orphanage by Angelina Jolie, an actress whose name is synonymous with fame and high-paying roles in Hollywood. But why was Zahara in the orphanage home? While on a charitable mission, Angelina felt immense love and connection with a 6-month-old baby in the orphanage home. At first, everyone thought she was an orphan, but findings revealed that her mother died days after her birth from bleeding, while some sources suggested that she died from acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. But here is the twist. Culture varies worldwide, and African cultures are unique in their affinity to paternity. The situation of Zahara's birth was considered taboo because her father was not known. Her mother was reportedly attacked, which resulted in her birth. While the mother and the child will be considered a disgrace, the reality is that the father or man responsible for the pregnancy will live like a king. No findings will be made, and only the mother will endure the responsibility of the child from birth. This resulted in Zahara being raised by her grandmother after the death of her mother. However, the situation only worsened as Zahara was one more additional mouth to feed in a struggling family. Then, 45 years old, the woman lived in a hut in the desertic town of Awassa. Her house description is a poignant reminder of how poverty can subject families to terrible conditions against their will. However, if you want to know why Zahara was in the orphanage, we must describe this house. Keep watching, but be sure you don't cry. The family spent their whole lives in an old one-room shack without a telephone or electricity. It had a leaky roof, crumbling walls, and a burner in front of the house for cooking. There were no more amenities. Yeah, it was bad for the family, and a $9 monthly income was not enough to feed every hungry mouth. After 4 months of effort from the struggling woman, she was at the crossroads of 2 decisions. Either to watch Zahara die in her house or give her to the orphanage, where she at least ate malnourished food for survival. After careful thought, she took the latter option by giving Zahara to an orphanage home. That is the situation in some countries where poverty can separate a family. But for Zahara, faith had a better plan. As news of her adoption reached her grandmother, she was not bothered in any way, but was happy that her starving granddaughter was on the verge of becoming the child of one of the most attractive power couples in Hollywood. Despite her limitations in reading and writing, she had one wish that every African grandparent cherishes so much. What was her wish? That Zahara return to settle in Africa. Keep watching to find out. With the joy and expectation that her granddaughter would not just be well taken care of, but would be led along the path of success, she asked that a picture of her prosperous granddaughter be sent to her one day. All I ask is that one day Miss Angelina could send me a picture of my granddaughter so I can remember her and those beautiful big brown eyes. They are just like my daughter's eyes," she said. She made this wish because most African parents and families, seeing how terrible their means of livelihood is, don't bother having a stranger train their child. What matters to them is for the child to be alive, become successful, and one day pay them a visit. That is how life is cruel in some African countries, and parents would have to push for the adoption of their children at least for their well-being. Immediately after her adoption, the power couple returned to the States, where they legally completed her adoption process. But how did life turn out for the 6-month-old baby? Keep watching to find out. Life in the States. After her adoption, Zahara's life was not as perfect as expected. Imagine making headlines from 6 months old. On landing in the United States, her life was met with media attention. The paparazzi were everywhere, waiting for Jolie and her adopted daughter. However, a life that awaited her was worth every attention. She found real happiness in the comfort and luxury of the Jolie-Pitt family. However, just a day after arriving in the States, she was rushed to the hospital for medical attention. She weighed only 9 pounds and had to spend a week in the hospital recovering from infections. Luckily, she went on to fully recover, and Brad Pitt opened up in an interview that he can't imagine her life without her. Brad Pitt did not withhold the love he had for their newly adopted child and was the first to initiate a legal adoption process. This resulted in her official double surname, Zahara Jolie-Pitt. While many appreciated the humanity of the power couple towards a child who was between life and death, some criticized them, believing that they took advantage of the family's poverty to gain attention. But this was not enough. In a short time, controversies erupted from the media about Zahara's family back in Africa. What came up? Her grandmother died? The answer lies in the next part of this video, so don't stop watching. Controversies. Amid swirling media reports and growing speculation, a new revelation about Angelina Jolie's adopted daughter, Zahara, captured headlines on November 15, 2007. This wasn't just about an adoption that had already stirred hearts worldwide. It was about a girl who had been saved from the brink of death. But now, news from Africa was shaking the foundation of that story. What could have come up after all these years? The truth lay not only in Zahara's tragic past, but also in her Ethiopian family's desperate cry. Keep watching to find out. On that fateful day in November 2007, the American magazine In Touch Weekly published a startling article that revealed Zahara's biological family in Ethiopia was stepping forward. Zahara's grandmother claimed that not all was as it seemed. The adoption papers stated that Zahara had no living parents, but the grandmother insisted otherwise, that Zahara's mother, Mentawab Dawit Labiso, had not died as previously thought. "I want my daughter to come home and see where she is from," Mentawab tearfully told In Touch. "I have never disputed the adoption of my baby by Angelina Jolie. I think my daughter is a very fortunate human being to have been adopted by a world-famous lady. I wish them both all the success they deserve," she said in 2007. "Her grandmother and I tried very hard to raise her, and I want her to regain her identity." Interviewed in the same article, Zahara's aunt, Zinash Haile Yanero, expressed anger and frustration over how the adoption was handled. "My mother was very sad," Zinash said. "At one point, she was thinking of bringing Zahara back to us, but she had no money to even try." These claims struck at the core of Jolie's adoption, raising questions about whether the actress had been misled. Friends close to Jolie have since defended her, with one stating, "She believes Zahara is an orphan. Zahara was days away from death, and Angelina saved her. That bond is unbreakable." Despite these controversies, which some believe to be misleading, Zahara Jolie-Pitt has no intention of returning to Africa. Still, she has found joy, comfort, and contentment in her American family. Keep watching to find out how she has settled in among her siblings in the Jolie-Pitt family. Her American family. Zahara Marley Jolie-Pitt grew up surrounded by love, laughter, and the rampant energy of a large family. She became part of a home filled with brothers and sisters, Maddox, Pax, Shiloh, and twins Vivienne and Knox, who arrived shortly after. Jolie had built a diverse and joyful family that provided Zahara with everything a child could dream of. But in 2017, a new chapter in Zahara's life unfolded. At the age of 12, her biological mother, Mentawab Dawit Labiso, emerged once more. In an emotional plea, Mentawab reached out through an interview with Daily Mail Online, asking for the chance to speak to her daughter. "Please just let me talk to my child," she begged. The world watched as this heart-wrenching request surfaced. Yet, despite her biological mother's efforts, Zahara never reconnected. This happened because Jolie has a personal philosophy about childbirth. For Jolie, it's not about who gave birth but who raised the child. She believes that she is the rightful mother of her child because she has been there for her from infancy, offering a life she would never have had in Africa. While the past can never be erased, Zahara's future was firmly grounded in the family who had raised her, and that was where her heart truly belonged. Despite not reconnecting with her mother, Angelina and Zahara have made notable efforts to reconnect her with her roots. Jolie has long believed that adopted children should know their roots, and for Zahara, that meant multiple visits to her homeland over the years. A particularly memorable trip took place in 2019, when Zahara, then 14, had the extraordinary opportunity to meet with Sahle-Work Zewde, Ethiopia's first female president. During their meeting, they spoke about Ethiopia's rich culture and history, connecting Zahara to her heritage in a way that transcended the borders of her life in America. In an interview with British Broadcasting Corporation News, Jolie shared, "Zahara must understand where she comes from. This is her history." Yet despite these connections to her homeland, Zahara never saw her biological mother, Mentawab Dawit Labiso. Jolie made a decision that sparked conversations across the globe. She believed that reuniting Zahara with her birth mother would be harmful to the girl's emotional well-being. Friends of Jolie shared in an interview with People magazine, Angelina's focus has always been Zahara's best interests, and she felt that a meeting with her biological mother could be too disruptive. It is quite emotional, but if the decision was made in the best interest of her daughter, let's hope that she will meet her biological mother in the future when she is emotionally prepared, and if she is alive as speculated. Do you know that Zahara Jolie-Pitt is a dream child for every American family? Keep watching to learn exciting facts about a girl who cheated death as fate brought her the best life even other American kids can only dream of. Following in her mother's footsteps of advocacy. On March 16, 2022, the 19-year-old joined her Oscar-winning mother, Angelina Jolie, at the White House for the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. Dressed in a chic wool coat, Zahara stood proudly beside her mother, who has long championed this crucial legislation aimed at supporting victims of assault and domestic violence. Together, they cheered alongside other advocates as the law's renewal marked a powerful moment in the fight against gender-based violence. Angelina, a key player in lobbying for the Act's reauthorization, celebrated the victory with an Instagram post, reflecting on the impact of the legislation. "Today, I think of all the children and families who will now have a better chance of a life free from violence," she wrote. "I also think of all those women and children for whom this legislation came too late." Her words portrayed the urgency and importance of the act, which now includes updates such as non-racially biased forensic evidence collection and Caden's Law, offering judicial training and protections for children. It is interesting to know that this was not Zahara's first time supporting her mother's advocacy efforts. In December 2021, Zahara accompanied Angelina to the Washington District of Columbia, where they engaged with lawmakers and advocates to strengthen the Violence Against Women Act. In an interview with People magazine, Jolie said, "Having Zahara by my side as we fight for these crucial protections is a reminder that the next generation must carry on this work." Only 3 months before the March event, Angelina had returned to the White House, meeting with officials and addressing reporters in the press room. "It's a health crisis, what's happening," she told Cable News Network, passionately explaining the importance of early intervention and prevention for families. But that is just a little detail about Zahara's life. Keep watching and discover how a 19-year-old girl is fast becoming a role model to many kids out there. What were you doing at 14? For Zahara Jolie-Pitt, it was teaming up with renowned jeweler Robert Prokop to launch her very own jewelry line, the Zahara Collection. The young designer made her glamorous debut in October 2019 at the Los Angeles premiere of Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, where she proudly showcased her creations. Dressed to impress, Zahara dazzled the red carpet wearing 3 tiered earrings, a bracelet, and a matching ring from the collection. But this was not just about fashion, it had a purpose. The Zahara collection was available at Saks Fifth Avenue and featured stunning white and pink quartz jewels alongside pink sapphire pieces. The collection was more than just beautiful accessories, it was a way to give back. In an interview with Harper's Bazaar, Prokop shared, Zahara was deeply involved in designing each piece, knowing the impact it could have on others. The proceeds from the collection went directly to Los Angeles' House of Ruth Shelters, an organization offering transitional housing for women and children in need. Zahara's commitment to using her influence for good was clear from the start. As Prokop put it, she's not just creating jewelry, she's creating hope. Since then, Zahara has grown and is currently a 19-year-old lady at Spelman College, where she hasn't relented in her effort to create positive change. Keep watching to discover what she is up to in college. A new chapter at Spelman College. While studying at Spelman College, Zahara's time in the Institute of Learning is not limited to academic activities. Well, she's just made a remarkable leap into an esteemed sisterhood. Zahara officially joined Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the first historically African-American sorority, founded at Howard University in 1908. This monumental moment was captured in a lively video by Essence, showing Zahara introducing herself at Spelman College's Alpha Kappa Alpha chapter. With a confident smile, she proudly declared, "My name is Zahara Marley." Then, after shaking her hair, she added, "Jolie!" The crowd cheered as she said, "I hail from Los Angeles." How many 19-year-olds can say they've joined such a distinguished legacy? Very few, maybe. Founded to serve and uplift, Alpha Kappa Alpha is more than a sorority. It's a powerful movement that has cultivated leaders like Vice President Kamala Harris, Dr. Maya Angelou, Felicia Rashad, and Wanda Sykes. With more than 355,000 members and over 1,064 chapters worldwide, Zahara has just entered a rich empowerment history. In an interview with Essence, a representative from Spelman's Alpha Kappa Alpha chapter said, "We are so thrilled to welcome Zahara into our sisterhood. She brings a unique energy and dedication to the causes that we value." Sharing the news on Instagram, Angelina wrote, "Zahara with her Spelman sisters. Congratulations to all the new students starting this year. A very special place and an honor to have a family member as a new Spelman girl." Jolie was visibly emotional as she dropped Zahara off at Spelman in August 2022. In a touching video shared by the Vice President for Student Affairs, Daryl Holloman, the actress, holding back tears, confessed, "I'm gonna start crying. I have not started crying yet." Holloman reassured her that she'd have plenty of time to cry during the upcoming ceremonies. Spelman College President Dr. Helene Gale also shared her excitement, telling Today.com, "We are honored that Zahara Jolie-Pitt and her family chose Spelman College, and we welcome Zahara enthusiastically into the Spelman sisterhood. As the #1 historically Black college and university in the country, there's no place quite like Spelman, which has been an incubator for Black women's education and excellence for more than 140 years. Zahara, expected to graduate in 2026, has embarked on a journey that promises to be filled with education, empowerment, and sisterhood. But did you notice a change in her name? Come on, why did she introduce herself as Zahara Jolie without Pitt, her adopted father's surname? This seems to confirm what we've been suspecting. The 2016 plane incident. Do you know that Zahara is not the only Jolie who dropped Pitt from her name? Everyone knows about Angelina Jolie's messy divorce battle with Brad Pitt. But how did it affect the once close-knit family? Keep watching to find out. In late May, on her 18th birthday, Shiloh Jolie-Pitt, heartbroken, decided to leave her father, Brad Pitt. She petitioned the Los Angeles court to remove Pitt from her surname, which shook the fragile relationship between her and her father. According to an exclusive insider interview with Us Weekly, Shiloh's decision wasn't merely about a name. It was a signal of estrangement brewing for years. Brad was devastated, shared the insider. It was more than just a name change. It felt like the final break in a relationship he struggled to maintain. This petition marked the third time one of Brad's children had chosen to distance themselves from him publicly. Shiloh's older sister, Zahara, now 19, had introduced herself as Zahara Marley Jolie at her sorority initiation at Spelman College in November 2022, while their youngest sister, Vivian, was credited simply as Vivian Jolie in the playbill for The Outsiders, a Broadway musical she co-produced with their mother, Angelina Jolie. The issue goes deeper than just a name. According to The Insider, Shiloh hired and paid for her lawyer to handle the legal process, a decision that Brad found incredibly painful. He's not ready to give up on his kids, added a second source, but knowing they're actively trying to erase his name is deeply upsetting. So, what has driven this rift between Brad and his children? Another insider pointed to their fierce loyalty to Angelina. Their mom has been their rock, said the source. Angelina raised them with love and selflessness, and once Brad left, it became tough for the kids to forgive him for how things went down. Maddox and Pax, Brad's older sons, have cut ties completely. Now in his 20s, Maddox reportedly sees himself as Angelina's protector. His feelings toward Brad were allegedly intensified after an incident on a private plane in 2016, which resulted in a highly publicized legal battle. Angelina claimed that a drunken Brad had verbally and physically assaulted her and two of their children. Maddox was profoundly affected by that, said a third source. His opinion of Brad rubbed off on the younger kids, and the distance only grew. Despite this, Brad has attempted to rebuild his relationships with his children. In 2021, Shiloh wanted to testify in a custody hearing, but Brad objected. The court sided with him, awarding him joint custody. However, Angelina successfully appealed the decision, claiming the judge had failed to disclose his business connections to Brad's legal team. Still, Brad hasn't given up hope. He's apologized repeatedly for his actions and acknowledges his past mistakes, said the first insider. Brad, who's been sober and in therapy since his split from Angelina, has worked hard to turn his life around. In a 2017 interview with GQ, he admitted, "I grew up with this father knows best mentality. Instead of really knowing the man, his own self-doubt and struggles, it hit me hard after the divorce. I have to be more. I have to be more for them." While the relationship between Brad and his older children appears to be at a standstill, sources close to him say he's still hopeful for a better future. He's doing everything he can to maintain some semblance of normalcy for the younger kids, said another insider. Brad's Los Feliz mansion, just a few blocks from Angelina's, is still where he occasionally sees Shiloh, Knox, and Vivian. When they visit, Brad goes out of his way to make those moments special. He orders their favorite meals, buys them gifts, and tries to make those few hours count, said the source. For Brad, the challenge now is mending these fractured relationships and coming to terms with the public narrative surrounding his family. Angelina is very public, said a source, and she's spent over 2 decades working with the United Nations and advocating for domestic violence survivors. So her voice carries weight. This ongoing conflict, intensified by their legal battle over Chateau Miraval, leaves Brad feeling at odds with a version of events he believes isn't the full picture. In the end, Brad continues to seek reconciliation. He's doing everything in his power to be the best father he can be, says one close to him. Despite everything, he loves his children deeply. They will always be his priority. As he told GQ years ago, people on their deathbeds don't discuss what they obtained. They talk about their loved ones or their regrets. It's a sentiment that stays with him, even as the road to healing remains long and uncertain. What do you think? Will Brad Pitt have that loving relationship with his kids again? Especially with Zahara, who is becoming a voice in the beauty industry and humanitarian causes. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.